Hezbollah's deputy chief, Naim Qassem, says his forces are ready to face any ground offensive and vowed to keep up its fight against Israel. Our plans for a retaliatory campaign come after Israeli airstrikes killed a string of top Hezbollah officials, including its senior leader, Hassan Nasrallah. Hezbollah says a new era of leadership is underway.
سنختار أميناً عاماً للحزب في أقرب فرصة وبحسب الآلية المعتمدة للاختيار في الحزب، ونملأ القيادات والمراكز بشكل ثابت. كونوا مطمئنين أن الخيارات ستكون سهلة لأنها واضحة ولأننا على قلب واحد.
The IDF says it has eliminated the head of Hamas's Lebanon branch, Fatah Sharif Abu al-Amin, in southern Lebanon. Hamas earlier claimed that Israeli forces struck his home at the Palestinian refugee camp near the city of Tyre. Now, Israeli airstrikes also targeting the capital Beirut for the first time. 3 members from Palestinian militant group, the PFLP, were confirmed dead in Beirut's Kola district. Lebanon's health ministry saying the death toll from the weekend's airstrikes in the city of Sidon has risen to 45. Israel said earlier this month that it was shifting its focus from Gaza to securing its northern border with Lebanon, and that's to allow displaced Israelis to return to their homes. Meanwhile, calls for international aid are mounting. The UN Refugee Agency says some 100,000 people have fled to Syria from Lebanon amid the unrest. The UAE has pledged to deploy an urgent relief aid package worth $100 million, while France has delivered 12 tons of critical medical assistance, including 2 mobile clinics to treat the injured. Let's get more now from Trent Murray, joining us live from Tel Aviv. Trent, absolutely no sign that either Israel or Hezbollah are backing down. To what extent and how far are both parties willing to go to achieve their goals?
Well, I think it was important what we heard there from Naim Qassem in that inaugural address, with him now leading the organisation after the death of Hassan Nasrallah. I really think there were 2 audiences in that address. The first, of course, is the Israelis. He wanted to send a strong message that Hezbollah will continue the fight. But I think domestically, he's also trying to send a message that the organisation remains intact. Of course, you have to understand Hezbollah has spent the best part of 20 years building up its forces and operations within Lebanon, and the past 12 days have been pretty devastating for them in terms of the loss of their leadership. And there was a bit of a message today of just sort of calm and control, and that the organisation does still remain, and that it can launch rockets and missiles still at Israel, seemingly hinting that much of its arsenal does still exist despite those airstrikes. And so the rhetoric from Beirut today really seems that Hezbollah will not back down despite these devastating blows by the IDF. On the other hand, we're seeing very strong signals from the Israelis that they're preparing for some sort of ground operation. We are seeing troops massing up on the border, tanks massing up on the border. And the Defence Minister, Yoav Gallant, has been up there in the past few hours when he told troops that the elimination of Nasrallah is a very important step, but it is not a final one. Certainly the trend line suggests that the Israelis are preparing for more military operations in Lebanon. And of course, that's really got many diplomats in this region concerned that it could signal the start of a much wider war, not just with Hezbollah fighters on the ground, particularly at a sort of combat level on the border, but also what Iran does in all of this. Does it decide to try and step in to help Hezbollah?
Absolutely. And as you said, with the conflict threatening or perhaps already spiralling out of control, what do we know about the other party's response, the Lebanese government?
Well, the Lebanese government have an interesting role to play in all of this because, yes, while they are sort of at the top of the state hierarchy in running Lebanon, they are in caretaker mode right now. And Hezbollah doesn't answer to them really at all. They have complete autonomy as an organisation, and this has been one of the great conundrums for the Lebanese government, is that effectively Hezbollah has dragged Lebanon into this war. They are the ones firing rockets and missiles into Israel. It's not the Lebanese army. The Lebanese army has largely stayed out of this conflict for these past 12 months when things really intensify, but the Prime Minister there now is saying that if Israel decides to launch a ground invasion, then he will authorise the army to go down into southern Lebanon to try and protect the borders. That would open up an entirely different type of conflict, because if the Lebanese army was to get involved alongside Hezbollah against the Israelis, well, it would really be devastating for all sides, which is why we're seeing the French foreign minister in Beirut today trying to talk to all sides just to try and bring down the tensions. And we're also hearing that President Biden is preparing to speak to Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu later today.
All right, we'll keep an eye on all those expected messages. Thank you so much, Trent Murray, reporting live there from Tel Aviv.